So, after you watch the credits, after you do your post-game save, this cutscene plays. I'd always told myself that I would be the one to find the legendary cyframe Evolutia. Now I find out that it was linear all along. I was surprised, yet at the same time. I wonder where and when Linear was born, and just what on earth Evolutia is anyway. Ever since that incident, that's all I've thought about. After all that thinking, I realized something. I realized that I just don't know. But there's one thing I am sure about. Linear's my partner. She's family. I don't care what kind of girl she turns out to be. I'm sure she'll explain the whole thing to me someday. Those 8th Empire army goons went home. I wish I never had to see any of them again. Now they've gone, the ruins are open again, but the soldiers took all the valuable artifacts with them. Nina at the Society said the artifacts are probably at the bottom of the sea. Oh man, this whole mess isn't my fault. Speaking of mess, we're in a bit of a... I'm assuming that's supposed to be jam, but that J looks really weird. We're in a bit of a jam too. Just before reaching land, we made an emergency water landing because the sea otter broke down and ran out of fuel. The Society rescued us, but they sent us a huge bill for repairs and the cost of recovering the sea otter. Now we're back to being deep in debt all over again. Oh, woe is me. Don't worry, we'll just get more assignments from Society and really rake in the dough. Yes, that's the spirit. Such confidence, such dignity. You're a true adventurer, Mag. Really? Gee, thanks. Anyhow, we'll be alright as long as we keep taking on new adventures. Absolutely right, and I'll be right by your side, Mag. Yeah, well, I'm going to the Society to see if they have a new assignment for us. Come on, Linear, let's go. Okay, let's go, Mag. Holy crap, Linear says words. Okay, so we still have a couple of items. We do have Linear back. Linear is officially back in the party. So we do get to use her for the final dungeon. And by get to use her, I mean required to use her. She is back in the you are forced to use her party. So we have one last dungeon to complete. It's going to take literally the entire stream today. Possibly longer, but I'll probably be skipping some floors. So smart money is on using gray for this. Yeah, well, Eugene was not, like, killed or anything like that. He just ends up in the ocean. Welcome to Society Mag, the 8th... Welcome to the Society Mag, the 8th, so we have a new assignment for you. Am I glad it's all over with? Mag, you wouldn't believe it. Those army guys are horrible. They took home some of the artifacts without our permission. Even worse, the ship carrying all those artifacts sunk. Those were invaluable artifacts of ancient civilizations. What a terrible shame. So the ship sank, huh? Yeah, it was pretty badly damaged, so no wonder it sank. How did you know? Why do you say badly damaged? Oh, nothing. Forget I said it. They're a bunch of creeps, huh? You said it. But I also heard that the prince who led the expedition got into serious trouble after he went home. He was blamed for the shipwreck and got into some political trouble. Serves him right. Really? Knowing Eugene, I was sure that he would come after us, but I guess we're in the clear now. But what's strange is how the story isn't getting any publicity. I'll bet there was a secret deal. I get furious just thinking about it. This is a government conspiracy. I'm sure of it. Hi, Avanias. A conspiracy? Nina, you're acting weird. Oh, I'm sorry. I got a little carried away. I must be reading too many spy novels. Sorry. Okay, so let's see what our what's our debt right now. Our debt is 200,000 money. As a reminder, our debt started at 80,000 when we started this game. Okay, well, I want an assignment. Thanks to the 8th Imperial Army's retreat, the blockade from the requested ruins has been lifted. Is this okay? So, the very last set of ruins, the Descent ruins, tower-shaped ruins, said to be built as an ancient astronomical observatory. Are these ruins okay? Of course, because it's the only ruins available. Okay, I'll make the arrangements so you can leave on your adventure immediately. Have a great trip. Best of luck. Alright. So, these ruins are going to be long. They're going to be arduous. And we better get right to it. Let's go pick up, Gray. Can it be paid with only one dungeon? Yes. So thankfully, this dungeon will pay off that entire debt. It is the longest dungeon in the game, so it is also the hardest because the game does scale. Okay, Gray, let's go. Let's see. Okay. So off we go on an adventure. And these are, I said this in the past, but the Descent ruins are actually my favorite ruins. By the way, it never happened, but if you do happen, what kind of name is linear? This game is full of really, really not good translations. So the names of the characters are Mag Launcher, Linear Cannon, Grenade, Pepper Box, Chain Gun. Is Linear still in mute mode? Actually, no, believe it or not. She actually talked at the very beginning of the stream. So if I want to give Gray more damage in exchange for agility, I think I'm okay with that. Yeah, the game... So this was the first RPG that came out for the Dreamcast, and the actual, like, translations in the game are not, you know, they're not amazing. It sounds like weapons, it's because they are. Mag is kind of the one that's kind of the least weapon, like, sounding of all of them. But I think it's more like a magnetic launcher. And I think a linear cannon is more like a railgun. Yeah, so we're not going to be able to skip a lot of floors to begin with, because I actually do need to collect some levels a little bit. So our enemies are level 56. I forget what level we are, but we're not actually much beyond that. So I need to make sure we get ourselves some levels, so that way we can actually survive later floors. The boss of this dungeon is going to be the hardest boss in the game, because enemies do scale based on what level we are on, based on what floor we're on, and also which dungeon order we're in. So we're in the last dungeon, so enemies are going to be the hardest in this area than they ever are. Other good news, though, is that because we are in the final dungeon on the final floors, we are also going to get the best items in the game. So we will be getting better equipment than usual, which is going to be excellent. So getting Gray's heavy gun, for example. Hey, Wonder Girl. So yeah, we are going to be getting really good items. So that's going to be a useful thing. Everybody has their best stuff unlocked. So Gray, all of his stuff is unlocked for the most part. I think he might have one skill I haven't unlocked. Like, I haven't unlocked Mag's revive ability because it never came up. But everybody has their best skills unlocked, or at least available. How am I? It's been an unpleasant day. Or an unpleasant... Yeah, unpleasant day. Will I get Hammer Hands? We have to hope so. Hammer Hands and Thieving Hands are the last two items for Mag. I'm pretty sure we have everything for Pepper. The thing is, though... Well, see, I say that. There are still some of the elemental weapons for Pepper and Blade unavailable. Not Blade, for Chain unavailable. So we did just get, the lightning blade parts for Chain. There's one other blade part available in the game. And Pepper, I think we've only gotten one of her 3 elemental things. So like there's potentially a lot. Mag, we've only seen, I think we've seen 2 of Mag's hand parts. I see lightning hands and ice hands. So we've seen 2. We still need to see fire hands. So there are a bunch of blade parts still available. We could also see a bunch of the stat boosted parts. So attack parts, you know, defense parts, things like that. We could still see a bunch of those as opposed to seeing hammer hands or stealing hands. So no guarantee that we will actually get the ones that we're looking for. I mean, it's just stuff. Biggest thing going on is just financial nonsense. My last year or a year and a half ago, I can't remember the exact timing, but some time ago I refinanced my car, and when I refinanced my car, what did we get? Nail and Royale, okay. When I refinanced my car, it changed financial institutions, so instead of being financed directly through Toyota, I got financed through a credit union. And the credit union's decent. Like, they've been good people. I have no complaints about them so far. But apparently in the past, like, 2.5 months, they completely redid their computer systems. And when they redid their computer systems in May, it turned off my automatic payments from my my bank to them. So I didn't learn about this until... Hey, there's Hammer Parts. We got him. Okay. Let's go ahead and pull out Hammer Parts. And I've said in the past, Hammer Parts are my favorite cyframe item, just because of how ridiculous they are, so we're going to get to use those. And chances are, like... Nothing that I can't be here. Okay, so first Hammer Parts ability is Magna Hammer, which just does a sidestep attack with what hammer, target takes 1 step back. But we have Stun Hammer, straight... so actually, you know what? Let's go ahead and use that. I'll just show that to you. So, they reset their computer systems, so for a month, I didn't know that this had happened. So, I ended up almost being behind in my car payments. Keep in mind, I'm never behind in payments. Not so much a brag, but as a statement of fact, my credit is really, really good. And it's because I literally never, I never miss a payment ever on anything. I don't use my credit card a bunch. I have a certain level, like, I follow all the recommendations on keeping a good credit score. So I almost miss a payment. I was very upset because it had nothing to do with me. So I had to go talk to them, and then I had to figure out how to get a new account on the new system. So I made a new account. And then I had to, relink my, let's see, let's go ahead and use Hammer Parts Level 2, Stun Hammer. Additional effect, Paralysis. So I had to relink my financial institution with the credit union. So that took several days. And then once I was able to do that, we were then able to set up the recurring payments. But when I set up the recurring payments yesterday, instead of doing what I asked them to do, which is start the first payment on the 22nd and then recur every month on the 22nd, which is what I've done for literally the past 4 years, they decided they were going to take a payment out yesterday. I didn't have money in my bank account yesterday, so this was going to overdraft me. Overdrafting is also something I never, ever, ever, ever do. Also, Linear has the ability to use Intensive Care, which completely restores HP during combat to all friends, so all friends have full HP, which is something fun. Restore, Love Spell, Restore Status. I'm not 100% sure how this is different from Restorative Touch, which restores all status abnormalities. We also have access to some of her tones, so I'm going to go ahead and start using those. We're going to unlock everything. So, I called the Federal Credit Union, like, literally 3 minutes after I realized that they were going to charge me yesterday. I called them, and, you know, the phone call was lovely. Like, they were very helpful. But what they told me is they could not cancel, the withdrawal. There's nothing they could do on their end. And they recommended that I call, my bank and, have my bank put a stop payment on it. And so I called my bank, and my bank says, sure, we can put a stop payment on it. It'll be $30 to do so. So again, this is not my fault. I have nothing to do with this, but I would have to pay $30 to put the stop payment in. I said, okay, how much is the overdraft fee if this goes through and I don't stop payment? $34. Oh, okay, so you make a bunch of money, and I have nothing, so it has nothing to do with me. So it was just this really obnoxious thing. Thankfully, you know, my family was able to help. The payment went through. They helped me to get out of overdraft before an overdraft fee was assessed. So I'm fine now. I just pay back my family, you know, on Friday, and I'm now $200. I have $200 less free money now than I would have had. But on the flip side of that, it means that I will pay off my car 1 month faster. But it just kind of annoying, you know, things. They're just like, okay, this is extremely unpleasant. And then, for no reason whatsoever, my internet bill. So my internet's been having issues over the past couple of weeks. Really, past couple of months, if I'm going to be honest. But my internet's been having trouble over the past couple of weeks, and I'm already kind of annoyed at them. And then they sent me a statement also yesterday, or maybe it was Sunday, I can't remember. I think it was yesterday. But they sent me a statement saying, hey, yeah, all Gray has to learn is Morning Call, which revives Mag to full, and we don't need that. So, hey, Gray, kill everything. So they sent me a statement saying, hey, we couldn't process your payment. Now, again, automatic payment. It's taken out of a credit card that does not expire for another 3 years. That credit card is absolutely not maxed. And I went and looked on my credit card statement, and there wasn't even an attempted withdrawal. There was no decline or anything like that. But they were going to charge me $25 there for, this payment that didn't exist that was declined. So I had to call them and have them fix that too. But it's just like a lot of nonsense happening all at once. And damn, I was hoping I hit the phage before the wolf hit me. And so I'm just kind of brought back to kind of times from 10 years ago. So 10 years ago, my family had a lot of very not good times going on. Lots of things happened, 15, 17 years ago now. My dad died, which meant we had no one actually earning money, so we got his life insurance, thankfully, so that was going to help pay for things. Then the stock market crashed, so all the money went away, so we had to sell our house. There was no place for us to live, so my uncle had to provide a place for us to live. And then when he did, we're going to go ahead and go to Mad Hammer. Fierce Hammer attack, plus Confusion effect. Target takes 1 step back. So my uncle had to give us a place to stay, but the place was not available yet when we actually had to move down to New Orleans, so we had to live in a, let's see. Let's just have Gray heal Mag quick. But, we had to stay in a priest's rectory for, like, 6 months, waiting for the house to become available. So the problem is that a number of years ago, this stuff was fairly common for my family. There would be bad stuff happening back to back to back to back. And, over the past couple of years, it's been a fairly good. We haven't really had that happen anymore. So kind of this stuff happening, there's also, my family's not been affected by this, so to make that abundantly clear before I say anything. But there's also things like COVID going on. There's been a lot of stress in the family. None of us have been able to kind of go out and do stress relief. The one time that me and my mom tried on her brand new bike, her bike got caught in sand. It fell over, broke her leg. So we're dealing with her having her leg broken. She's depressed. I feel that part of it's my fault because I'm the one that said, let's go out, and I chose our route, which got her in the sand. There's a lot of these stressful things that keep on happening back to back to back to back. And it's starting to feel a little bit, that is so tempting. Why not? Let's do it. But it's starting to feel like those times from, like, 10 years ago where just a bunch of bad things would happen. Incredibly, unfortunate, incredibly stressful things would happen back to back to back to back. We just got Evasion Booster plus 55. I'm not going to use it, but that would make it so Mag evade attacks a lot more often. And a Sky Telescope, which is an appraisal item. Yeah, it definitely feels like life is out to get me. And it's just kind of these, these unfortunate things. I got fussed at in a board game night last night, which, being fussed at was fair, I guess, for what they fussed at me for. But at the very same time, it felt extremely unpleasant due to circumstances. So it's just kind of like all of these things add up. And when you combine this with the fact that I just get what I call, bad brain days. A number of years ago, I was, diagnosed clinically depressed. And I'm not going to say I grew out of it, but I kind of reached a point where it was only an intermediary thing, whereas it used to be an all-the-time thing. So just some days are just bad days. And when you add this on top of extremely stressful things that happen, those days become even worse things. We got screw parts. I can't remember who those belong to. Oh, that's, okay. That's Pepper. Who knows? We may leave every couple of floors and go out and grab one of the other two so we can see some of their moves. We saw a lot of Pepper's stuff, but we have not seen really anything on a chain, so I might go get them. So now we have Strike Hammer. Intense Scattering Hammer attack. Target takes 2 steps back. So yeah, just, again, a lot of kind of unpleasant things happening. I had some concern over my dog for a couple of... Uh-oh. Are we frozen? No! Her name is Pepperbox, yes. Yep, the game froze. Darn it! Let me check the disc. I'll be honest, I think this is actually more the Dreamcast than the disc, because that disc is almost flawless. It's really hard to say, Ender. I think it's just bad. Well, not necessarily bad, but I think it's just poor translations that we're looking at. There are other translation issues in this game. You will see some of them, especially with some of the items and things like that. So there were already some really weird translation things that happened in this game. So I think the names were more they couldn't figure out how to name people, so they started just looking for stuff like puns and stuff like that. That happens a lot in translations, I find, especially when there are maybe jokes or stuff that can't be normally translated. Yeah, like breast protector, exactly. So I'm assuming that's the reason why. I mean, Zach, the problem is that I can logically think that, you know, my mom breaking her leg is not my fault, because I know the other things that happened during the ride. I know that the bike was brand new. The shifters were very stiff, so she was trying to shift while she was turning. At the same time she was trying to shift, she also, you know, she was also, I can't remember if she was reaching for her drink or reaching for her phone, something like that on the ride. And then also the front wheel got stuck in sand, and all of that led to her losing her balance. And she reached out with her leg to try to stop herself instead of just going with the fall, and then the leg got braced against the bike, and the bike snapped the leg. So I can understand that it's not necessarily my fault, but this was the day I said, hey, let's go out and ride. This was the path that we went with. And so because of that, it's kind of like, well, you know. So it might not be exactly my fault, but it kind of feels like I'm implicit in it. Anyways, as I said, it's just some days I'm just more down than others, and when there's a lot of things happening, you know, simultaneously, it gets me to feel, yeah, the bike snapped the leg. So, her leg was planted on the ground to try to stop her from falling, because keep in mind, you know, at her age, falling already is a bad thing, and then the main crossbar of the bike pressed against her leg and ended up snapping it. And I've got no idea. I haven't been paying any attention to Magic whatsoever in the past couple of months because I only play in person, and my local game store is still closed. So I have not paid any attention whatsoever to anything Magic related. Because there's nothing I can do. We already missed an entire set that I will never get to play. Okay. You give me the assignment. That kind of sucks, because we had actually gotten Hammer Hands, so I feel, you know, kind of annoyed. Actually, you know what we're going to do? I do kind of want to bring Gray along, but I think what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to bring Pepper. No. I'm going to bring Chain. So they don't actually take money out of your rewards money unless they're with you at the very end. So I'm going to go, I'm going to bring Chain with me, and we're going to take a look at some of Chain's stuff. Because we haven't seen any of Chain's moves. I mean, I know there's always online in Arena. I think online has one of the worst possible interfaces that I've ever seen in a game. in a computer program, and I've played online for a long time. I started playing online like, I don't know, 10 years ago or something like that. So I still have an online account. It has a fair amount of cards in it, but I think the interface is absolutely terrible, and I don't want to ever play it again. It's not fun trying to play online. And Arena, I have other things to do than to do daily quests in Arena. Like, Arena makes it too hard for me to get the cards that I want. Hello. So, for those reasons, I'm just not likely to play Arena. I did play Arena for a while. Like, so this is not me, like... Excuse you, dog. That is trash. You have food. I did play Arena for a while, so I'm not... You know, I'm not saying I don't necessarily like Arena as a person who didn't play Arena. I played a lot of Arena. And Arena's fine, but, I want to actually be able to get the cards I need to make the deck I want, and the fact there's no ability to trade. By the way, let's start looking at Chain. So first Chain ability is Double Blade, which is a single target ability. But yeah, in Arena, the fact that like we just can't, you know, we can't trade or anything like that makes it very hard to get the cards I want. So I just can't really play the way I want to play. I could, you know, I could pump money into it, but that's the exact thing I don't want to do. Otherwise, it's literally playing every single day, and I've got other stuff that's more important to me. I'd rather just go to my local gaming shop. Unfortunately, my local gaming shop's closed. So we just don't have much we can do. I've been told they finally fixed... The other reason I stopped playing Arena was because their drafting was completely broken. Drafting is what I like about Magic. Drafting is the main game mode I play in Magic. I don't usually play Standard or anything like that. I play Draft. And Arena's draft was completely broken and not good. I've heard they fixed it, but I still haven't wanted to go back. Between Final Fantasy XIV and League of Legends and then my streams, I have more than enough to do. So, Zach, you're right. You know, you are... Sure. So Zach, you're right. You know, it isn't my fault, and I'm aware it's not my fault. I'm aware of that logically, but it's an illogical thing. You know, there are things that I know that my brain does that are extremely illogical. One of them is that I tend to get anxiety about stuff that may not ever actually happen. It's just a thing that happens. So I know these things logically, but there's still no getting away from them. Okay, so there's Flame Hands. So I got Flame Hands, unfortunately, instead of getting Hammer Hands. That's kind of the real thing that sucked about that freeze, is that we lost Hammer Hands. Hopefully we'll get them back, because I really want to show you guys the final level of Hammer Hands. Because the final attack is hysterical. So hopefully we'll actually get lucky. We got Flame Hands. Flame Hands do the... exactly the same thing all the other hands do. They have one flame attack, they have a flame debuff, and they have a flame stun. Can't disconnect my brain? So, once upon a time, I tried doing what you would call disconnect my brain. I tried doing it by way of medicine. So Line Blade hits one entire rank of enemies. So once upon a time, I tried doing that. I tried using meds. And, like many people who have said... Many people have said this about medicine, but it made me feel like not me. I didn't enjoy being on it. It didn't feel like it was a bonus. It felt like a bad thing. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna change you over, and I'm just gonna give Chain some booster items. Also, Chain has no armor or anything like that. So that's potentially a bad thing for Chain. They have no equipment. So hopefully we'll actually see some drops that Chain can actually use. But yeah, so like I've tried medicine and it didn't work out for me. And then anything else, I don't like how it feels. Let's go ahead and unlock phony tone, or flat tone again. I don't like how it feels. There's a certain level of disconnect I don't want to have. Because, you know, a certain level of disconnecting yourself, you're not personable. You know, you're not fun to be around. You don't care what others think. So Chain's next ability is V-Blade. So V-Blade, so you'll see that V-Blade only works in that V-shaped pattern. I can't flip it, I can't change it, I can't turn it. So V-Blade literally just doesn't work in this fight. I can't use it because those enemies are just not in that pattern. We have X-Blade. So X-Blade would hit exactly one enemy, but again, cannot adjust that. That's just a specific pattern that Chain is able to go in. Air Raid's kind of fun, though. So that's one of Chain's two kill everyone abilities when it comes to blade parts. It was lack of patience. The last time I tried to take meds, it was half of my life ago. I was 16. But I didn't have the patience for it, and I didn't like the doctor. But yeah, so just, you know, I would rather deal with the potential negatives, knowing what my negatives are, than kind of look at some of these other alternatives at the moment. I get down, but I'm not suicidal or anything like that. So, you know, that's not something anybody has to worry about, especially me. None of that happens for me. But, let's see, what's my next? So we got Dull Tone, boosts an enemy's wait time, which is interesting. We'll go ahead and use that later. But yeah, I'm not suicidal or anything like that, but getting depressed usually makes me feel down. I feel less creative and, you know, less interesting, and kind of also on a major part of it, I also end up sleeping a lot. So I'll end up losing, you know, time to do anything else because I'll be asleep. Which, you know, sleeping's not the worst thing, but it does scale circlet. Loses evasion, loses agility. Defense and hits goes up. Can Chain wear that? Yeah, hey, Chain. That's an all-around upgrade for you. You can take that. On it, like, I think that disconnecting yourself does make you less of an interesting person, because the things that make a person interesting, at least in my eyes, are their passions, their insecurities, the things that make you either out of the ordinary, or alternatively the things that make you flawed, are the things that make someone interesting to me. And, you know, disconnecting kind of ruins both of those. Let's go ahead and do Hyper Air Rave. So Hyper Air Rave is a single target attack. And Hyper Air Rave is very similar to Pepper's Pepper Blast, in that it starts as single enemies, or Mag's Magna Rave. So very similar concept. It does a lot of damage to a single target. Problem is, Chain just is not... She can be as powerful as Mag if I was to sink as much resources into her as I do into Mag. And at the end of the day, that is one of the things that I don't want to do. There's only so many resources we have in this game in terms of, like, money, upgrade kits, and things of that nature. We only have so much. And we already have one cyframe user. Hey! Okay, this is a completely different hand part for Mag that we actually got. Rock parts. Yeah, doing the opposite's generally a better treatment. So rock parts, let's go take a look at them. So Magna Rock, crushing giant boulder attack, increases target wait time. So this one's kind of an interesting target. It hits the target and things around it. So this can be hard to target with, actually. Because you have to actually, you know, the targets need to be near each other. But this is why I wanted to find these parts to show you guys, because of how goofy these parts are. Yeah, I think disconnecting is not the answer. Disconnecting makes you partly a less interesting person, but also I think it can make you a worse person. You know, I find that for a lot of people, the what's her? Okay, so we're not gonna use that this turn. Okay, but disconnecting, I think, makes you lose the ability. Rock parts, roller rock, rolling attack using giant boulder, hits 2 entire enemy ranks. But I think disconnecting, you start to lose a little bit of that humanity that you have. You start to lack the ability to empathize with people, and I think empathy is one of the most important skills that you can have. So that's also a reason I don't want to disconnect. Can I hit you? Okay, we'll do an X blade real quick. I'm probably not going to do V blade because it's basically this exact same thing, just with a slightly different animation. But that's X blade. But Chain's blade parts are just not good. I really do not find them to be particularly useful just because they are so heavily position dependent. So now we'll change over to jet parts and we'll use those instead. I think a lot of the issues in the world today is lack of empathy, so I don't think disconnecting is a smart idea for anybody. I think everybody should try to keep those connections. It's a lot harder to hurt a person if you empathize with them, if you can feel their hurt. It's a lot easier to do well by people if that's the case. Piercing attack with a giant boulder adds paralysis effect for 1 step around an enemy. Slightly different boulder this time. By the way, Mag's kind of strong. It's the other reason why I think upgrading Mag specifically is a better option. You can focus all of your... Oops, that hurts. You can focus all of your upgrades on just Mag. Gray and Linear are plenty by themselves. They don't really need you to do much to make them good. We don't have the parts to do that, so we'll go ahead and kill this, and we'll let Shane do a thing. So we have dash attack. So jet parts for Chain are all about moving enemies around. Also, speaking of moving enemies around, I need to fix my formation. So, dash attack forces an enemy to move to the front rank. This enemy was already there. Or, sorry, it moves Chain to the front rank. So it's all about moving Chain for that one. And as I said, the jet parts are all about moving Chain or moving your enemies. Mag has a similar move set where he has the moving parts that we've had for a while that I never really ended up using because I don't find them useful. I think you can get powerful enough that you don't really need to move people around that much. And my party, I typically want everybody to be in the front rank anyways. More damage, less armor is true, so you take more damage that way. But I find that, like, having them there is better. And I don't really care where my enemies are, because my attack power should be high enough that I don't have to worry about that. Mag, do you have... Nope. Okay, so the second jet parts is reverse attack. This moves an enemy to the front rank, so this is the one I thought it was. Yep, and speed too. So moving enemies to the front rank, which allows us to do more damage to them because their defense is lowered. Okay, what did we get? Ow. What did we get here? Rare item, Applegrass. Applegrass is one of those healing items. I think it's the one that gives 500 HP and 500 MP to everybody. Useful items. So we're going to start seeing a lot more of those really awesome items in this dungeon because it is the last and hardest dungeon and deepest. So we'll be seeing a lot of things like Ichthyol, a lot of things like Applegrass, Green Moss. We'll be seeing a lot more of that stuff. The game wants to power us up. wool gloves, and Mineolin Royale. Dog, can you please stop moving? So wool gloves are an accessory, increases defense at the cost of other things. I prefer Lucky Charm. So we'll go ahead and move on instead. Okay, we got our glass shoes again. Which unfortunately are a linear-only item. But linear now has an 87% chance to crit, so... The other thing I don't like about Chain as much is that Chain shares armors with Mag. And linear. 1 second, I'm trying to unhook my... There we go. Unhook my headset cord from around my dog's foot. But yeah, Chain shares armors, so it means that you're less likely to get an armor that you need. So Dash Tackle, throws an enemy. So the enemy goes to the back rank, Chain goes to the front rank. Not amazingly useful. I don't want my enemies to be in the back rank. They take less damage back there. Thankfully, not too much of an issue because Chain was able to do enough damage. But, yeah, we don't want our enemies to be doing that. And unfortunately, we do have to level up. I think that if you go look at my other file, we were level 80 at the end of that file. Damn. And we're only level 50-something now, so I can't just kind of skip. There's also reverse tackle, Chain to the back, enemy to the front. I can't really start skipping floors right now because we have a lot of leveling up we need to do. So unfortunately, just kind of skipping floors means that we're going to end up being very behind very fast. Once we start really getting ahead, I'm going to go ahead and just use Intensive Care. So Intensive Care is Linear's strongest healing spell. It is full health to all allies. Pretty good stuff. Yeah, Chain just never feels like a good addition to the party. I want her to be. I really do. Because I love Chain's personality and I love her style. But she just doesn't end up really contributing much to the party. She fights for cyframe parts. She fights for equipment. And most of her base kit is just not useful. I'm not going to show you guys the elemental parts because I'm going to be honest, there's nothing interesting in the elemental part kit. So we're going to go ahead and move on to, guess I'll move on to counter parts, which is Chain's healing. I mean, you say that, but I hasten to point out that all the characters are Caucasian/Asian. Dropping 2 giant boulders increases target wait time for 1 step around the enemy. If there were characters with other, like, if there were other races here, if, let's say, Chain was black, for example, and it was a Caucasian Band-Aid, that might be a little bit of a different thing. That being said, the lack of representation in the game is a bit of an issue. I don't think it actually would have changed anything either way. Like, the storyline wouldn't have changed, the characters' personalities didn't need to change. But back then, they didn't really care about that. Okay, so Mag's next ability is going to take us half of this dungeon to unlock. So let's go look at counterparts. So counter, attack with additive combat damage. Nope, doesn't do anything, because Chain has taken no damage. Hey, look, another reason why I don't like Chain. I mean, that's an argument, but it's not a particularly good argument, because this isn't our world. Okay, let's try this again. Shane has now taken damage. Hey, look, we did a little bit of damage. This isn't Japan, though. Like, that's the argument I can give you. If your game takes place in, you know, medieval Europe, then you might have an argument. But this isn't Japan. This isn't medieval Europe. By the way, full heal for everybody costs 50. That's it. But this isn't any of those locations. This is a fictional place. So, you know, talk to me about what your population is. I was reading a Hey, Link. I was reading an article last night, and the article was about Peanuts, the comic strip, so Charlie Brown and team. And it was a conversation about representation from back in the 60s, I believe, somewhere around there. And it was, I think, the day Martin Luther King Jr. Got killed or something like that, or the day after. The timeline somewhere around there. But a woman reached out to Charles M. Schulz and said, "Hey, you know, I've noticed that you don't have any, any people of color in your comic strip. Could you include one?" And reportedly, he responded back and said, "Look, you know, I'd be interested, but I don't want to upset anybody by misrepresenting them or anything like that." They had a long conversation between her and him, and she also had other friends of hers reach out to him to ask it, or to let him know that, you know, this is how you could represent and and not insult anybody, not upset anybody. Here's your options. And so after a couple of back and forths, Schultz reached out to her again and said, "Look for a comic on such and such a date. It's like 31st of May or something like that." And, you know, a young black boy joined the crew. Multiple different comics where he kind of introduced himself, and that was it. This kid did not act any different, anything like that. I think the only major difference that I read about was just that his dad was in Vietnam and was outright called out. But other than that, like, just another boy in the group, and then from then on he started showing up. So the character does not need to be especially different from other characters, but everybody wants, you know, someone that looks like them to be in the game. And there's kind of no reason not to do it. I was thinking about the other day, actually, and I was about representation. I was kind of thinking about my favorite characters in some games, and specifically in terms of representation. And I was thinking back on Final Fantasy VII. Now, admittedly, I did not play much Final Fantasy VII. I've said that quite often in the past. The original, the original one. Yeah, well, the character isn't different, and that's the point. That is the entire point. But if there's not a difference when you do include them, there's no reason to not. There's no reason to not include them. You should include them. Period. As you know, there's no reason not to. I'm having a hard time actually using Chain's abilities because Chain is taking no damage. I was thinking Final Fantasy VII. I was thinking of Barret, and Barret definitely felt in Final Fantasy VII. Again, the original. I'm talking about the one on PS1. And again, I only played about 3 or 4 hours of the game, I think, if I'm being generous. I did not play much of that game. But thinking of Barret felt very much like token black guy, and also, trying to see if I can drop anything I don't really care about. Can I leave dungeon, change Chain? I want to show off a couple of other of Chain's abilities, and then we'll leave the dungeon and bring in Pepper. But he felt very much like Token Black Guy, and he also felt like an incredible an incredible stereotype. Like, he did not feel like an actual character. He felt like a ton of stereotypes thrown together. Then I thought of, okay, this is glass shoes, which will only be worn by linear, so we'll skip that one. Then I thought of Zaz. So Final Fantasy 13. Now, I know a lot of people don't like 13. I don't like 13. So I'm going to say that right off the bat. I do not like 13. I thought 13 was not good. Eventually, I might go back and play it on the channel and actually try to beat it. But I got to a certain point and actually put the game down because I'm like, this game is not a good game. Okay, let's see if... I don't know if this is based on damage taken in this fight or just total HP variance from current to max. Let's take a look. Damage taken in this fight. So, unfortunately, counter moves are just not particularly useful. We'll try to see what the other two abilities are, though. Okay, we got Chain Counter, attack with 3 times additive combat damage. Yeah, so combat damage. It's based entirely on how much damage she's taken in the fight. And that's cute and all. HP is definitely a resource. We can take damage. The problem is that the only time that's ever going to be really useful is going to be during a boss fight. When a boss is doing damage to everybody. So we're going to go ahead and just take off counterparts. Because we've seen what it does. I'm sure the fourth one's just 4 times damage. So let's go ahead and change to saucer parts. But, I definitely felt that, So I felt that 13 was bad. So I'm going to put that right out the way. And I think that most of the characters in 13 are bad. They're just not good or interesting characters. Zaz was different. I really liked him. He does have some stereotypical stuff that, that does apply to him. His afro is definitely something. But what I really liked about Zaz as a character, so let's go to saucer parts. So single saucer, this is a discus throwing attack, powers unaffected by distance, which is something that Pepper brings. So Chain can be at the back of the line and still do this and deal the same amount of damage. But what I liked about Zaz is that maybe a little bit less of his personality, but his storyline was not only one of the most relatable storylines of any characters, a father and his son, but also it didn't have, that I recall at least, anything to do with his skin color. He was just a man who was worried about his son. That was secondary. So we had this just character who's just, normal dad. There's nothing different here. And that's what those inclusions should be. So it's kind of hard, though, in a game like this to look back and go, yeah, in that, I might, Zach, I'm outright admitting that, my opinion of 7 is based on, first of all, the PS1 release. So the new release might change that. But also, it's based on, 4 hours of gameplay. I didn't like it. I really didn't. And it was soured by how that gameplay experience ended. One day, I may go back and replay it. But at the moment, that's just where I sit with that. So I may not have actually seen the useful stuff. Yeah, the chocobo in his hair is there, but it's a gimmick, and I actually really dislike the chocobo in his hair part, because all it is a gimmick for Zaz. It doesn't actually contribute anything to him or his character. So I actually really dislike the chocobo in the hair thing, to be honest. It felt more like making a joke about the fact that, hey, look, he has big hair, than it was it's a quirk, really. That's about all it is. It's not actually a way to make his character more interesting. Different folks. I thought he had the most emotional storyline, and I also felt that he had the most character growth out of any character in the game. But I look at games like Evolution, and, first of all, knowing that in... Holy crap, there are a lot of items in this room. Scale circlet... Let's go ahead and pick that up. But knowing what I know about, what do I want to drop? Go ahead and pop that. I actually liked Fang a lot more than I liked anybody else, because there actually is a story there, but you have to be looking for it, is the thing. Vanille, it felt like it had very little of a storyline. Do I want to use the scale circlet? So I lose some evasion, but I get some defense. And I get a lot of hits. Evasion and agility. Yeah, it's decent. There's ice blade parts. And an agility booster. But, you know, I think of what I know of, like, a lot of JRPGs and a lot of anime in general. Japan likes to include Japan, basically. They include people of, people like them. So you don't actually see a lot of variation in anime and games in general, especially out of certain times. Let's go ahead and grab that. We can drop an Ichthyol. I actually don't need that. Grabbing appraisal items that I can sell so I can get items to upgrade Pepper. But yeah, if you look at a lot of anime, a lot of RPGs, you don't see much of that in older stuff. I'm not saying that I'm not saying that's a good thing at all. But just kind of being aware that, this is a thing that you see in this time frame. It gets better. Not much better. It needs to be better, but it starts getting better. But yeah, there is no, especially in a fantasy setting, there's no excuse to not include people of color in just kind of a general statement. Okay, this is a very short floor. I mean, going back to what you said originally, I want to go about the Band-Aids thing. I do think that at a certain point, there is also such thing as being too sensitive about that sort of thing. It's a visual effect in a video game that is not making a statement about anything. I think it's kind of reading a little bit too much into it. Hey, Monster Zoo. Also, all our favorite monsters are back. See, I haven't played much in the way of the Final Fantasies. I played, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Played a little bit of 7. Crystal Chronicles. Tactics Advance. And then some original Game Boy one thing called Final Fantasy Adventures. I think is the name of that one. But that's about all I've done. I kind of want to go back and play some of the old ones. At the same time, I think about that and I go, you know what? That's probably not a good idea. There's probably not much back there for me, and I should probably stick to more modern games if I'm gonna be honest with myself. Need to start using some more of these saucer parts. Let's look and see more stuff that Chain can do. So Chain gets to do some damage to that bird right there. So Chain's second ability is Spin Saucer. Attack enemies near a target. So unfortunately, I killed the enemies nearby. But this works a little bit like Mag's Rock. So the saucers will attack stuff near the target. It's a neat ability. I really like, of all the abilities we really see, I think that in terms of kind of being a little bit more unique, Saucer Parts is very fun. I think it's a fantastic set of abilities because visually it's interesting. I want that Navigator, so let's go ahead and... You know what? We'll pop a Chameleon Color because we're in the middle of Monster Zoo. That's fine. But, I mean, I think it's really kind of more interesting when we see some of these unique things. That's kind of why I'm really excited about actually getting to show you guys Mag's hammer parts. Did they plan games after Final Fantasy 1? No. That's actually the entire story of why it's called Final Fantasy. The game company was going out of business. Here's Line Saucer, which hits lines of enemies. They were going out of business. That was their very last game. And they didn't, they didn't expect, I guess, too much to come of it. And then it turned out to be incredibly popular, and that kind of brought the company back into business. So, yeah, they absolutely did not intend... that's right, I also played Dissidia 1, 2. I have Dissidia NT on my shelf. I never played it. I played Theater Rhythm 1. Haven't played Worlds. I did play Text Advance 2 and really disliked it.